This has been a brainchild we've been working on for more than a month. So just thank you all for coming and supporting. I would like to thank everyone for also supporting our state and city leaders as we have up here on the panel. And when you walked in, you were asked to write a question down. We've been able to gather some of those. But if you still have a question, I know we have one right here, Dr. Hardy. I know she wanted a question. We'd love to take that from you, too. A little housekeeping. Please make sure you have silenced your phones. Also, we are streaming live on WARR radio. So just a heads up, we are live, so we're excited about that, but that means we're also live. So, so just know that we're live, okay? And that this video will be available afterwards as well. But for right now, we're going to be live. And shout out to the station manager who's here, Donald Brumfield. He's in the back, Black-owned radio station, WARR. So we want to shout them out, covering a 60-mile radius. He made sure to say 60-mile radius in Warren County. So I want to highlight that 60-mile radius. At this time, I'd like to introduce our moderators. And we have, first I'm starting over here with Richard Chu, who flew in from Chicago with North Carolina roots. And, you know, he is just such an advocate. It's so important to him to talk about voting issues and things like that. And so he wanted to come here because he's also broadcast on WARR, right, at 2 p.m. So you can check him out there. We also have the chair, Anderson Clayton of the North Carolina Democratic Party. That's my boss. So Anderson, I have to just say really quick, Anderson was in South Carolina Saturday, Mecklenburg County, Buncombe County. You were like in 6 counties and in South Carolina just in the last 2 days, and then drove 5 hours so she could be here today. So that's Anderson. She's always, and she lets me not have to go to everything, so I love her for that. She's everywhere at all times. Now at this time, we have a very special message, 2 very special messages that we're going to play for you that were just recorded for this group. So I want y'all to know that this was for y'all. They know they weren't able to make it here tonight, but they wanted you all to know just how much they appreciate you all and all that you have done. So without further ado, we're going to hear from Governor Josh Stein and Governor Roy Cooper.
Hey folks, it's your Governor, Josh Stein. I'm pleased to be with you by video for this important conversation. I want to thank Anderson Clayton and the North Carolina Democratic Party, radio host Richard Chu, and all the speakers who are participating in today's dialogue. And a special thank you to my friend and your next state senator, Pastor James Gailliard, for helping to host this event. Your theme of building bridges is on point. In a time when folks are so fiercely divided, building deeper connections with one another can show us just how much we have in common. But building bridges doesn't just mean making connections. It's about coming together around a shared vision for the future. Your presence here today is a testament to the way that each of you is already on the way to making that vision a reality. That's the same commitment that enabled us to accomplish so much in the 2024 general elections. In the governor's race, we beat our divisive opponent by 15 points. That was the largest margin of victory in a governor's race in nearly 50 years. But it wasn't just the governor's election that mattered or that we won. We won critical Council of State races, won our only competitive congressional race, Don Davis's, your congressional district, that they're now actually trying to rig with their gerrymander. We held serve in the state Senate under worse maps, broke the supermajority in the state House, and put Allison Riggs back on the Supreme Court, even in the face of a brazen attempt by Republicans to steal that election. We also gave hope to people across this country. North Carolina was a bright spot on what was otherwise a dark night for the entire country. And you know what makes us shine a little more brightly? Roy Cooper running for United States Senate. So I want to thank you for all that you did for our state and our country, and for giving me the honor of a lifetime of serving the people of North Carolina and fighting for them as their governor. Each one of us loves North Carolina. We all believe in North Carolina, and we're all working to deliver a better future for North Carolina. And we can. We can grow our economy and make sure that it works for everyone. More good jobs with good wages in every corner of the state. We can invest in our students, raise teacher pay, and expand access to childcare so that parents can afford to go to work. We can lower the cost of housing by building more homes. We can expand access to affordable, quality health care. And we can keep our neighborhoods safe. But first, we have to win some key elections. Your vote is your voice to shape our future, to advocate for our values, and to insist that every North Carolinian is represented. Primary elections are underway right now. If you didn't get a chance to vote during early vote, make sure that you vote on Tuesday, March 3rd, and then again in November. Let's protect my veto pen. Let's build towards a legislative Democratic majority. Let's send our friend Pastor James Gailliard to the North Carolina Senate. Let's re-elect Justice Earls to the North Carolina Supreme Court. Let's send Roy Cooper to the United States Senate. And let's keep building a North Carolina that is safer, stronger, and more prosperous with real opportunity for every person. Thank you.
I want to say hello to you Democrats who've gathered together because you care about North Carolina and our country. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to speak with you today. I am running for the United States Senate, and I admit I never thought those words would come out of my mouth. I really hadn't planned on going to Washington. All of my public service has been right here in North Carolina because this is where I wanted to serve, here at home. But as we speak, everyday people in our state and country are being left behind. For too many, the middle class feels like a distant dream. And what's happening in Washington is only making it worse. The biggest corporations and the richest Americans are just getting further ahead, all at the expense of working people. It's not right. And I couldn't just sit by and watch it happen any longer. Washington is broken, and we can't keep sending DC insiders to fix the problem that they created. I'm ready to go to Washington to be an independent voice for North Carolina, focused on the issues that really matter to people, supporting more good-paying jobs, making health care more affordable, and lowering costs for working families. And I'll need you with me to help get it done. No one can win a campaign like this alone. And this is by far the biggest and most consequential campaign I've ever been in. And I've been in a few. As I often tell people, I'm a prisoner of hope. I still believe our best days are ahead of us. And together, with the help of everyone here, I know we can build a stronger North Carolina and provide a course correction for our country. Thanks. I'll see you guys on the trail.
Testing. Oh, perfect. All right. Hello. How y'all doing today, everybody? Do I have some Democrats that are fired up in this house? I don't know. It's after church. I might have some pizza. Do I have some Democrats that are fired up in this house? All right, all right. Please, act like you in our Reverend's church over here, everybody. Come on. Thank you all so much for coming out today. I know it is beautiful outside, and you could be doing anything else with your time and your energy, but you are here with us today because you care about the future of this state and this country, and you care about the future of yourselves. So thank you for being here with us. I'm going to run through, and I got the hard job up here, so as they say, forgive me if I forget somebody. It is blame my head, not my heart in that capacity if I do, and I hope that you will happily raise your hand and say, Anderson, I'm not on this list that you got right here, baby, because I do want to give due diligence to the folks that have made time to be here with us today, especially our folks that are not up here on this stage with us that hold elected office, that have made the time to be here with you all. And so we've got our fantastic state representative, Glorstein Brown, right here in the house, folks. We've got Commissioner Gwen Wilkins right here out of Nash County, everybody. I've got my fantastic county chairs both in front of me, Dr. Kahn over here in Nash County, Chair Alfreda Perkins here in Edgecombe County right here beside of her. I've got my school board and also my Halifax chair, Joyce Lashley, right there in the back, everybody. I saw James Whalen, who is running for your Court of Appeals, come in the back right there, folks. We know that we've got Curtis Young, who's running for Halifax School Board here in the house, everybody. I've got Harris Walker running for North Carolina District 25 here in the house. We've got Dr. Erica Mitchell running for Nash County Commissioner District 5. I've got Claire Kempner running for NC9 in the House. I got Linton Brown running for NC9 in the House. I've got my district courts judge, Tia Taylor, everybody. I got our Halifax County Commissioner, Jimmy Silver, over here, folks. And I've also got our school board, Terry Silver, also in the house here, everybody. And I don't know if I missed anybody, but if I did, you didn't make it on this list. So do I have any other elected officials in this house? Anybody running for office that we may have missed that we need to highlight here? Well, give it up for the staff who did a great job putting this list together, everybody. Thank y'all for that. And also, I see, and grateful to her because we also have a candidate who did not raise her hand in this house who's running for North Carolina House of Representatives, NC7, everybody. Dr. Kimberly Hardy, folks. She is running to take on David Rouser in the southeastern part of North Carolina. And we are remiss if we did not shout out a good old Don Davis, whose congressional district that we sit in here today. And I've also got my first vice chair, Jonah Garson, right there in the back, everybody. And thank you again to Amanda Fitzpatrick, our comms director for the state party, for all of the hard work that she's put into this event. Thank you to the staff. Thank you to our wonderful pastor's daughter, Jasmine, who has helped us put this on today. I don't know if Jasmine's here in the house anywhere, but she has done, there we are, a fantastic job. We've also got Dorian Palmer, who's the coalitions director for the state party here with us today. We've got Dawson McNamara Bloom in the back, everybody, who's also part of our comms team and does incredible work for us as well. And so you all are surrounded by so many people, and you also got checked in out there. I do not know if she's in the room yet, but Talina Massey, who is our regional organizing director out there, everybody. And so you're surrounded by good state party staff too. But I want y'all to put the faces with the folks that have helped put this event together, and also the ones who are on your ballot this year, because I do appreciate them coming out for us. But without further ado, I'm gonna turn it over to a few words from my co-panelists up here with us in that sense, and then we're gonna turn it over to the rest of our panelists to introduce themselves to you all, to make sure that you know who's sitting up here with you before we get into questions of the day. And Dr. Hardy is still going around with, if you've got any questions that pop up while you're sitting there, feel free to write them down, and we're gonna try to get to them. But Richard, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Anderson, and thank you, North Carolina. I cannot even tell you how excited but also proud I am to be here. It is an honor. My name again is Richard Chu. I'm co-hosting with Anderson today, but I host a radio show based in Chicago on WCPT, which is Chicago's Progressive Talk. Broadcast all over the country, and in partnership with WARR, as Anderson mentioned and Amanda mentioned earlier, we've been able to sort of spread our wings and reach other communities. One of the things that was important to me when I started the show 2 years ago, I've been a financial advisor for 30 years. And when the show started, one of the things that I said had to happen is we as progressive liberal Democrats, and wherever you fit on that continuum, had lost some territory, if you will, because we focus so much on the national elections. And that's not a finger point. It's just kind of how we all are built in some ways. And I said, one of the things that we need to do with my show in Chicago, which is a stronghold for Democrats, as you guys well know, and we've got some strong leaders there, both in the state and in the House, as well as in the city. Our governor he's amazing. But one of the things that I said we have to do is we have to make sure that we start to fix some of the territory, or reclaim some of the territory that we lost in states all over the country. That's our baseline. It's a foundation. My family's from Mississippi, migrated to Chicago in the 50s, so I can use the word y'all and know how to say it the right way. Y'all know what it's like to build a house without a good foundation, right? So when you build a house, the pastor will tell you this all the time, with a good foundation, it's going to stand up for a little bit, right? So the local elections are ones that really matter so that we rebuild the country. We've got to take back that. Thank you. So it's been my objective to make sure that we connect with state officials as well as federal officials, and certainly local. And it was yet before the grace of God that Anderson and I met by phone. We had her on my show back in the fall, late summer of last year, 2025, and I said, we should do some more stuff together. And that led to where we are today. And so, when you ask for that blessing, it comes. sometimes not in the direction or from the direction you might think it may come, but it still comes. So I say that to say to everybody, remain faithful and remain empowered, and make sure that you are doing the easiest thing to do in this process, and that's connect with people around you. It literally is the easiest thing to do. And we've gotten so broad with technology and all those things, and we know that, and it's great, and it's a tool. But make sure that the folks right around you, right next to you, literally in your neighborhood, know that you're out there. Those who are the elected officials that are representing this great state, that's the easiest thing to do. Every single person that I've talked to and interviewed on my show, from California to Maine, has said to me, Richard, the number one thing that we have to do as progressive liberal Democrats is that we've got to reconnect with everyday folk. And I could be talking, thank you, go ahead. I could be talking to a law professor at any university in the country, or I could be talking to a scientist formerly with the CDC, and everything in between has said that. And if there's one thing that I wanted to make sure that I make clear to you guys, is that that is the thing that when we do that right there, it is the power that nobody can take away from us. Because, like Governor said, what's happening on a federal level is to divide us. And we cannot allow that to happen. It won't happen if we don't allow it to happen. Is that a fair statement? So I'll stop there. What do we do next? Let's keep this thing going.
We're going to pass it right along down the line right there. Representative Rodney Pierce, everybody. Give folks an introduction to yourself. Tell them a little bit about you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Anderson, Richard, Amanda. My name is Rodney D. Pierce, and I have the pleasure and privilege of serving House District 27 in the North Carolina House of Representatives. Thank you. That is Halifax, Northampton, and Warren counties. Thank you to the constituents from those 3 counties who are here today. I see some of you in the audience. Thank you for making the trip out here today. If you ask me to tell you a little bit about myself, I'm going to preempt my good friend and fraternity brother, Mayor Williams, over here, and say I am a Leandro kid. Okay? If you're familiar with that court case, I was a high school sophomore, giving away my age. I was a high school sophomore when that lawsuit was filed in 1994. And I went on to graduate from that district, Halifax County Schools, went back to teach in that district as a teacher, social studies teacher, won some awards, got appointed to Governor Cooper's Teacher Advisory Committee in 2021 and served on that for 3 years. And now I'm a parent of students in Halifax County Schools. So it was education, my background as an educator, as a parent of students in that district, knowing the history of that court case that led me to run for office. We won in 2024 by 34 votes in a very, very contested Democratic primary. So don't say, or don't let people say when you're in those everyday conversations that your vote does not count. Don't let them say that. Don't let them say that. But we are not in session, quote unquote, right now. We're still waiting on a budget, right? Still waiting. I know we got some retirees in the House. We have some state employees. So we're just sitting around waiting to see. We probably will not go back into session until, what, Dante, April or May? But that's just the truth. That's just being transparent and being candid. But I'm very happy to be here. Thank you again for the invitation to sit amongst such a distinguished panel of ladies and gentlemen, and to be in Nash County, where I actually used to teach Pastor Gailliard's granddaughter. So thank you all.
Just gonna go down the road, okay? Good afternoon, everyone. I'm James Gailliard. I have the wonderful privilege of serving as senior pastor here, so welcome to Word Tabernacle. Anderson, if you've not met her before, she stays on 10,000. And so we were just,
keep up with you.
so we were talking about you being on 10,000, and Richard, you sound just like a radio personality. So, but I'm grateful to be here. I am a candidate for North Carolina Senate District 11, which is the Senate district that represents Nash County, Franklin County, and Vance counties. I served 2 terms previously in the State House, which Harris is currently running for House District 25. I ran 4 times for that seat. I have a 2-2 record. But what is interesting about the 4 times that I never ran twice in the same drawn district, because every 2 years they kept moving the precincts in an effort to try to get people not elected again. And so I'm grateful for your presence. I'm grateful for you to be here. I will not belabor my time while we get to questions, but what I will say is that what is assumed is that people will not vote. And everywhere that we have a gerrymander, everywhere that we have a line moved, everywhere that we have any level of anything that looks not appropriate, it is based on an algorithm. And that algorithm assumes a very low voter turnout. It is not an algorithm of all voters. It is an algorithm of potential voters. That number is usually around under 50%, which means if in this area we turn out 60, 65, 70% of a vote, and listen, for all of us who have gone to high school or college, 60, 65% is still flunking. You need to hear me. We can flunk and still win. That's how doable this is. And so 65% of a turnout, and we flip every algorithm, and we shift the base of power to rural Eastern North Carolina, which I hope I have the opportunity to say more about. So thank you for being here, and I look forward to the conversation.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. It is so wonderful to be here with you. I'm Representative Dante Pittman. And first, let me say that I want to say thank you to Pastor Gailliard for having us today. And he didn't know I was going to say this, but my wife and I had the opportunity to visit his congregation this morning. And I want everybody here to know and everybody out there to know that if you're looking for a church and a congregation that is rooted in community, you ought to look at Word Tabernacle. When I was here this morning, I was thinking about this is what it looks like when good people come together to make something happen. And it can be in the faith world, it can be in the business community, or it can be in public service. And folks, that's the reason that I'm sitting here right now. When you go back to 2024, because of the good folks that I had working for me, standing side by side, we were able to win a House district that Donald Trump won by 2 percentage points. That only happens when you are having those critical conversations. And like Richard said, it needs to be conversations that are dealing with folks that are maybe on the far left, with folks like myself that are moderate Democrats, with folks even across the aisle. Because when we talk about the issues, we win because the public is with us on the issues. So I'm so grateful to be here. I'm going to follow Pastor Gailliard's point because I cannot let a pastor speak any less time than I did. So I'm going to go ahead and pass the microphone before I get in trouble.
Well, it is great to be home. I am Leonardo Williams, Leo, or Mayor Leo, and I serve as the mayor of the great city of Durham. But I love to come home. 223 Bond Street, Enfield, North Carolina. Highway 125, Scotland Neck. Bay Street, Hobgood, North Carolina. Went to Thomas Shields Elementary before they closed it in the 3rd grade. But went to Southeast Halifax, Brawley Middle School. So I'm home. And I too, as my frat brother said, preempt. You know, the state loves preempting local government. I too am a Leandro kid. I was in the 8th grade and I was in the band at Southeast Halifax. And we always thought, you know, why do other schools, you know, in other counties get better instruments and better uniforms than we do? You know, and at the time, we just said it wasn't fair. We kept going and we worked even harder. We still beat them. So imagine if we all had a fair chance. The reality is, before we can build bridges across the aisle, we have to rebuild this bridge at home in the Democratic Party. And you know, we are a large tent party, and I want everybody to hear me when I say we don't have to be forced into making a choice. We can represent all of the likes and diversity that we are as Democrats. So I want to be very clear with that. Like I said, it's good to be home because I get to not only talk like I'm from the Bull City, but I had to be like I am from home. And today we're going to get into a lot of questions I look forward to getting into, but all politics are local. And I appreciate you guys at the state level. I appreciate the folks at the federal level. But if you look at a cupcake, everybody always look at the icing and the topping on the icing. But what really matters is all of what's in the bottom. All right? And we all like dessert. So we're going to keep it sweet and savvy today. All politics are local, and I look forward to engage with you.
All right, we're going to get this thing started with a question for both. We're going to try to spread the questions around, so not every person's going to answer each question. Some of these were directed to candidates, and so what I'm going to first pop up is one for both Rep. Pierce and Rep. Pittman. How do you navigate legislative and district priorities while in a near super minority?
You pray a lot. You pray an awful lot. No, I think that, I can't speak for Rep. Pittman, but I think he would agree. You do your best to be as transparent as you can be with your constituents. You try your best to keep them informed of what's going on. God knows I wrote so many press releases, did so many social media posts, attended as many community events as I could in my district to be visible, to be accountable, and to engage with everyday citizens in my district. The challenging part, that's the easy part. The challenging part is going to Raleigh and then trying to work across the aisle to bring tangible results or resources back to your district or to the entire state of North Carolina. You can do that. There are plenty of bills that you can introduce individually, that I've introduced individually, where I had Republican sponsors on it who were primary sponsors. You get 4 primary sponsors. There were bills that I introduced, I was the lead, and all of the other primary sponsors were Republicans. So these were bills that were bipartisan. We love to say that in politics. These were examples of bills where I reached across the aisle, or they reached across the aisle, saw the general consensus was good, that it made sense, that it wasn't controversial. I'm reminded of House Bill 128, a bill that I introduced about giving free or low-cost screenings to people at high risk for prostate cancer, the most common cancer among men in North Carolina. And for whatever reason, that bill did not go any further than when it was introduced. Never got a committee hearing. And it was like, well, wow, here I am, or here we are, trying to literally save people's lives. Literally. And the bill gets no traction. So I just want you to understand that while we are advocating, while we are coming home or doing what we're doing on social media or in the press, trying to keep you informed, those are the types of challenges that are happening at the state level, in the House and in the Senate. Because the decisions in terms of what bills are going to move forward are made by about 5 people in Republican leadership. And that's, again, just being candid, just being transparent. So you do a lot of praying. You try your best to keep your constituents informed. You hold town halls. You make sure that you get that information out there. You make sure that you're visible so that you can engage with them and be held accountable for your votes or for what you've introduced or failed to introduce. So that's the way that I would answer that question.
So I think one of the things that you have to be comfortable with when you're in the minority is understanding that sometimes you can get something good done and nobody will ever see that you worked on it. That's right. You won't get any credit for it. And I can give you an example of this real quick, that we had a piece of legislation that was focused on younger veterans and making sure that they could get back to college for lower costs. And I was so excited when I first got to the House because one of my Republican colleagues came over to me and he said, I want you to be a primary co-sponsor. And he came to me because I'm serving in my 10th year in the North Carolina National Guard. And I knew some of the experiences that he was talking about wanting to address. And so here we were, we had this piece of legislation. I'm not going to say his name because I don't want him to lose next time around in a primary. But we had this piece of legislation. I was the only Democrat that was on that bill, and it passed the North Carolina House unanimously. And then afterward, I got word that he had been taken to the woodshed, and he was told, don't you ever do that again. because Dante, it doesn't matter whether you like him, it doesn't matter whether you don't like him. Dante, that is one of the seats, like I said before, that Donald Trump won, and we want to win it back. And so they took that bill and they put it together with another bill in the Senate, and it passed. So my name is not on it. But what helps me sleep at night is know that it is helping veterans in North Carolina. And so what I tell folks that are running for this office and running for this position is be ready to do the work and just know you're making people's lives better, because that's the real reward.
Richard, you want to pass it over to our pastor?
That is an incredibly powerful position to be in, to know what you stand for and to stand for it. So kudos to you for that, Representative. This is a question that's going to start with Pastor Gailliard. How many state representative and Senate seats can we realistically flip in this election cycle, and what districts do you believe they are in?
So realistically, and just so you know, we have no idea what these questions are. I do want to shout out former State Senator Erica Smith, who is here. Thank you for your service. I so appreciate you. So the key to the question is realistically, because the truth of the matter is if everyone committed to their precinct, forget the county, one precinct. If everyone here committed to one precinct, this is honest conversation. If everyone here committed to one precinct and say you were going to do your level best to work with neighborhood associations, civic associations, churches, divine non-organizations, and in our one precinct that we adopt, we're going to commit to at least getting a B, which is 80%. We could flip them all. Now, that's the truth of the matter. That is the truth of the matter. But we are underachievers, and we're underperformers, and so we like to pass with 60s. And so if we get by with 60 or 65% of the vote, I think realistically we're going to pick up 3 state Senate seats. I think we're going to pick up my district. We absolutely will pick up my district. I have no intention of losing this race. I think we're going to pick up Wilmington. I think we're going to pick up around the Burlington area. I think we're definitely going to pick up House District 25 right here in Nash County. And so I think realistically we're going to pick up 3 Senate seats, and I think we're going to pick up 3 or maybe 4 House seats. But if we want to become B students, we can take back the majority.
Hey. This next question's for our wonderful Mayor Williams down there, because you're not in the state legislature, but you get impacted by it quite a bit, do you not, being a mayor?
A lot.
What's the first thing that you feel like that you need to see from state legislators right now to help local governments, and especially places like Durham, actually get what they need?
No, well, first, let me just give honor that my wife is here with me. My love, Zweli. I left home and married up to this Zimbabwean girl. But no, I would say realistically, in Raleigh, you all's city is the legislature, the building. And for us at the local level, our city is literally everyone. I lead 324,000 people. And, you know, a lot of ideas come out of that. And I know sometimes Durham needs to just be quiet because we cause a lot of headache for you all in there in Raleigh. But I do think that the communication does need to be more open from the state to the local level because we have your ammunition. You know, you all have the gun, you have the weapon, and you can aim and you can shoot. But if we don't give you the ammunition, meaning the people, the votes, you know, the turnout, then you're just, you know, you have a water gun. And so what we want to do is make sure we provide you all with not only what we're doing locally, but provide you all with the resources to have strength in the legislature. And part of that is turnout. But also we want to make sure that we're providing you all at the state level ideas to pass in regards to bills, you know. And for example, right now, and I'll be careful not to talk too deep into this because we're still working on it, but down zoning was stripped away from the entire state. And it didn't go to you all. It just simply went to an office and they put it in the bill. We can't, that's not good governance, you know? And so we want to make sure that if it comes to something like that, then you have your city leaders to say, this is the impact, and provide you the argument to provide on the floor in debate. So really it's just open communication beyond just a specific bill that you're working on amongst your colleagues at the legislature, but really what is impacting the people who live everyday life. The person that goes to Target or Walmart, the person that goes to Family Dollar, the person that goes to church on Sunday, what does bills and laws look like in their everyday life? I can probably tell you probably better than most, you know, and being able to provide that information to you. So just open communication. We can provide you a lot of resources.
So this is a question, and thank you for that, Mayor Ali. This is a question for actually our state folks. All three of you can chime in on this. This is one of those optimistic questions that I really like. Check this one out. What's the first thing you would fund in the state budget if Dems had the majority?
The Leandro plan.
Okay. Explain. You mentioned this on my show once, so
Yes,
explain
sir.
this
Yes,
a little
sir.
bit more.
Well, I mean, okay, the court case has been decided. West Ed was a consulting firm that was hired to come up with this plan. Billions of dollars invested into public education in terms of teachers, in terms of administrators, money going towards school counselors, nurses, all of those school support personnel, basically giving the public education system in our state, which we are guaranteed by our state constitution, right? Free and uniform system of public schools, giving them what they need to do the job that we expect from them. And basically saying, hey, you have the funding. No excuses now. No excuses now, because that's what we've been saying for years, is that the cost of properly educating our children in K-12 has not kept up with the investment. We're not investing, we seem to be divesting. So I would say the Leandro plan would be the first thing that I would fund. And there's been a bill that's been introduced by a colleague of ours in the House for the past 6 years. I think it was House Bill 420 this past session. And of course, no traction on it, but that's what first thing that I would fund.
Thank you. Pastor Gailliard.
Absolutely, but this is what I'm going to say. Be mindful that if Democrats were in control, there would be a budget. Hey. And that's the piece that I think y'all need to recognize, that there is no budget. The number one responsibility of the General Assembly is the appropriations bill. It is the single and highest purpose of the General Assembly. It is 8 months late. Who would stay at a church if for the last 8 months, every time you came to Word Tabernacle, I stood in front of you after the sermonic selection and said, I'm sorry, there's no sermon? 8 months of no sermons. You know you have a problem with your church and your pastor. In my opinion, just because Republicans are in the majority and because they have the ability unilaterally to see that a budget gets passed, and since it is the highest purpose of their elected office, for that reason and that reason alone, not one of them should be reelected. Not one of them. We would pass a budget.
And this is the reason that I love local politics, because that is so profoundly accurate. Representative Pittman.
Well, I'm just going to say, you're not going to do this to me again. I'm not going behind a pastor
Okay, I'm sorry. Well, we can play musical chairs and switch that up right now.
Something about this ain't right. It ain't right.
Well, Dante, you don't disagree with them on those two answers. So here's one for you. How about it? What do you plan? What would you plan to do, right, for seniors in regards to costs to medicines, treatments, and even taxes right now? How do we address the rising costs for people that are elderly in our communities and also in places like Wilson right now?
Yeah, that's a great question. So first, I want to say that our communities right now are being severely impacted, not just by what's happening at the state level, but what's happening at the federal level. So in Wilson County, I'm the former board chair of our Department of Social Services, and that means I still get calls from all of my friends and folks in my community when they don't know where to turn. And people are scared right now because they see that rug being pulled out from under them. And there is not, because we don't have a state budget, we don't know where that support and help is going to come from. And so I want folks to understand that are listening to us right now that this election is so important, not only for us here at the state level or the local level, but your member of Congress right now is vitally important. Because what happened in Washington with H.R. 1 is that they threw that responsibility on the states. The states were not prepared for it. And we are seeing now North Carolina really is not prepared for it, and we don't have an answer at the state legislature. So that's got to be a top priority. And what I would suggest, I'm going to go ahead and go into it because nobody else has said it yet, is that we need to make sure that public dollars go to public causes, and that means the end of private school vouchers. If you take that $800 million, folks, the things that you could fund to help seniors, to help lower medical costs, and I am going to take the question that came before too, what I would fund, and that is pre-K in North Carolina. My mother had me when she was 19 years old, a single parent. And I'm sitting here today because of the family I had, the community support with my preachers and teachers and coaches, and because I had folks in that classroom that believed in me. We are not living up to that standard in North Carolina right now. You know, one of my mentors was former Governor Jim Hunt. And the last time that I talked to him before he passed, he said, do not ever forget about the importance of pre-K education. So, folks, when we take back the majority, that's going to be in the bill because we owe it to our children.
I don't know what Dante's talking about. I don't want to go after him either up here. Do any of my other panelists have anything to add to just talking about the rising costs for seniors right now? We had several questions that were just about how the devastating impacts of what we're seeing from federal cuts and also what we're seeing from the lack of reasoning from our state not having a budget yet, to y'all's point.
Well, to Dante's point, taking back the majority, not only do we get rid of the Opportunity Scholarship Program, but we repeal those tax cuts for the wealthy and for corporations. We are missing out on billions of dollars in revenue. Billions, y'all. Billions. And so those billions can go toward things like pre-K, like K through 12 education, like our healthcare system, all of those things. We're missing out on so much money. I mean, I can't begin to tell you. I think it was the North Carolina Budget and Tax Center out of Durham that said on January the 1st of this year, we were missing out on $1 billion. Just by going into the new calendar year, we were missing out on $1 billion in revenue. So that's something else we do.
And I would just say real fast, I'm not an expert on the federal side, but I want to try to help us connect the dots a little bit. Just recently, there was a United States Supreme Court ruling that overruled the tariffs. And everyone celebrated that, and we should have, and we should. But oftentimes, we don't connect the dots. The big, beautiful bill, in like every budget that's passed, every bill that's passed, you have income and you have expenses. And so for any guaranteed federal subsidy or any incentive, somebody or something has to pay for it. So on much of those Medicaid subsidies, it was being paid for by tariffs. Well, the tariffs have now been eliminated, which means the income attached to that expenditure is gone. So either it gets cut or we have to find the money from somewhere else. And so we've got to recognize how all of these dots connect. To Dante's point, it's so important that we're just not paying attention to what's going on in the state legislature and at the city levels and the municipal levels, but what's going on congressionally.
And can y'all believe the state legislators are only paid $13,000 a year to go deal with all of that now? Aren't y'all grateful to the folks that are up here running for office right now? They got to go do it so you don't have to, but I'm not kidding. They got to work a second job to be able to do that each and every day. And that is also something that Republicans could change any day that they wanted to, is to say, hey, we'd like to actually provide for working people and everyday folks to be part of this General Assembly rather than have to kill yourselves to go do it, because I know that's what the gentlemen up here are at this moment in time. Richard, I'll pass it over to you.
That's such an important statement to make about budgeting. And Pastor Gailliard and I, in our initial meeting, made a reference to the importance of being connected to the business community and the faith community inside of politics. And the short version is, I'll give an example. That exit sign or the maximum occupancy in a church doesn't get in place without politics and faith and business knowing that they have to work together. So did you guys just see how Pastor Gailliard broke down the numbers? That's what we all have to be better at doing. Then they can't pull the wool over our eyes. Fair statement? Okay. All right. I have commentary all the time. It's what I do, so apologize. In the climate of public education, there is a clear agenda to marginalize the history and heritage of certain students. What can we do to ensure instructional equity?
The mic to me.
Yeah, it's coming to you first. It's ensure equity in not just some race groups, but all race groups, and their history and their heritage is taught and honored.
Thank you for the question. As a award-winning social studies teacher, as someone who was, as someone who was vilified for teaching that type of history in his classroom. I mean, emails, phone calls, just for trying to teach children the truth about the history of our country, about the history of North Carolina. The first thing that you have to do is you have to have the proper teacher education programs at the state level in terms of you probably couldn't, well, you need it in your private universities as well, but really your public universities. You know, your East Carolinas, which is where I got my teaching license from. Places like that have to have a robust, candid curriculum to prepare people to teach a robust, candid curriculum when it comes to our history. You have to have teachers who are dedicated to finding that history. It's not just enough to have it in a textbook. What is that teacher doing outside of the instructional materials that have been provided for him or her? Are they doing their own research? Are they going into those primary and secondary sources? Are they going into those academic journals? Are they going into those Smithsonian archives? Are they going into those old newspaper articles and pulling from them and bringing them into the classroom and saying, hey, today we're going to talk about the Freedmen's Bureau, and I'm going to have you go into the transcripts of some of the offices that were in this state, and I want you to decipher this cursive so you can tell me what is going on. That was an assignment that I used to do with my students. But in order to have those types of teachers, not only do you have to have that at the university level, you got to provide them with that good PD, that good professional development. And I don't know if you get that from internally within the district or if you consult with someone outside of it. But prepare them at the university level and then add to it with that good professional development and make sure you have people who are committed to teaching that history and are not just there to get a check.
Mayor Williams, you want to add to that?
Yeah, I also as an award-winning educator.
What is it about you guys with this, back and forth? I've got this, I've got that, I've got this, I've got that.
No, to the last question, not the first thing I would fund, but, at the local level, we're, by law have to pass a balanced budget on time. So I would tell your colleagues that the cities can do it. Maybe they can do it too. The first thing we have to do, in addition to everything my brother Rodney just stated, is we also is on us. Education, teaching and learning doesn't have to happen in just the school building during school hours. This right here is a classroom. So first of all, we can't base teaching and learning and education on the fragility of those that are in power right now. All right?
Wow.
We have to make sure that we own the venue. We have to make sure we own the venue. So we're going to let the basis of teaching and learning happen at the school building during school hours. But afterward, there is no barriers of what we can teach and what can be learned for our kids. So let us also have expectations, but let us also own that as well in that space. So stories are passed down generations. That's real learning and education. Now, the funding, there is an obligation, but that's sometimey. But if we're going to rely on just the government, then teaching and learning is going to be sometimey. And sometimey learning is not going to get you where you need to be. So let's be all the time about it and make sure we own the venue, whether it's in church, whether it's in after school. I just requested $100,000 to support teaching and learning in Durham for kids after school, because we get to determine that. And you don't have to worry about the sensitivity of someone's bias. But our kids can learn the fact. And let me tell you, intelligence is a currency. Ignorance is the most valuable currency that those in power are trying to expend right now. And the more ignorant we are, the more wealthier they are. We choose. We choose the venue. We choose the currency.
Brilliant. I'm glad we're recording this, because what Mayor just said is universal throughout the entire country. That is not just a Durham thing or a North Carolina thing. That's a national concern. And when we take back that ideology and that premise that we own the venue of learning, of teaching, of politics, of business, that's when we really go back to what I said in my opening, which is we take back territory that we've yielded for far too long. So that's an optimistic thing for us to be looking at. That's not a slam. That's an optimistic. So thank you for that answer, Mayor. Next question, and we're going to start with Representative Pittman this time, so that you can go first and set the standard. How will we get a budget if we can't even get the Republican leaders of both houses to even speak to each other?
Of course, this would be the one that you gave me first. Well, let me say this, because I do want to inject some optimism that I think is based in reality, because we are talking about heavy stuff in here, and it is a serious time. I am believing that Tuesday, March 3rd, is going to clarify some things for North Carolina.
Amen.
Because the current leadership that we have in place, and Rodney has already touched on this, you are talking about a couple of folks that are holding the keys to the kingdom for North Carolina. And sometimes the only way to bring somebody around to seeing the truth is for the people to speak. And so I'm encouraged by the results that we're seeing, and that a message directly from the people is going to work that out for us. Now, what is our job, though, in this? When we get back into session, it is going to be incumbent on not just the folks pressing the red or green button, but for the public to come out and demand that action be taken. Because I want you all to know this, that we take note when we see visitors come into the General Assembly. And those of us that are standing directly with the people, we get some pep in our step. We get energized, because that's what democracy is supposed to look like. So, the way that we do this is that make sure that everybody that you know gets out and votes in the primaries, but also come join us in Raleigh, because we've got a seat for you, and together we'll pressure them to make sure we get a state budget.
Wow.
I just, because I'm who I am, I just want to say the quiet part out loud. The Senate Pro Tem of the General Assembly is Phil Berger, Senior, highest ranking senator. He's the one holding stuff up, one or two people. He is in the primary of his life in Rockingham County, Guilford County. If the independents in the state asked for a Republican ballot, voted for his opponent, and he was no longer in office and was no longer in leadership, it would overnight change the leadership structure of North Carolina. Overnight. So for all you who know folk in those areas, that's the strategy.
You got to follow that.
Now, how do I follow these two gentlemen up?
I ain't gonna lie to y'all, it ain't my strategy. We're gonna get Steve Lucan out there in Rockingham County to go beat him in November, in my personal opinion, you know.
Well, I'll say this. They do talk to each other.
Okay.
It just depends on what the topic is. You know, if they're out here passing a bill that makes it look like they're tougher on crime, you'll see them in the same room. They'll be in front of the cameras holding a press conference. They've done that, House Bill 307. But to piggyback off of my esteemed colleague, Representative Pittman, Dante, do you remember, you remember when that shrimp bill was in the state Senate?
Yes, sir.
Do y'all remember hearing about that? Those people came out in droves. You hear me? They came out in droves over shrimp. Okay, and I love shrimp, okay? No. And I'm not knocking their advocacy, but we literally were in caucus. We were having a caucus meeting before the session started. And I remember walking outside of the door after the meeting was over, and they were standing right there against the wall. How y'all doing? It was like, oh, snap. Hey, how are you? Are y'all voting today on the shrimp bill? Like, no, that's the Senate. That's around the corner. It's not the House. It's not us. Rep. Brown, you remember. And they filled the gallery. I mean, you went to the CAF to go eat lunch. They were standing beside you in the line. And a young man told me, this is my heritage, sir. My grandfather, my father. This is what we do. This is what we do. And if we showed that kind of passion, if we showed up in droves for those issues that are important to us, to their point, overnight those things would change. And like Dante said, we get energy, we feed off of it. When those galleries are full, when there's a contentious bill that's about to be debated and voted on, people taking pictures, people getting thrown out by the speaker, the gallery, I'm going to clear the gallery. You know, I mean, it happens. But that is what's required at times to get the attention of legislative leadership. So please keep those things in mind. Remember that example of those people from the coast who came, who drove for hours to come and advocate. They had a truck driving around with a megaphone on it. I mean, it was coordinated, calculated, and the bill ended up dying. So imagine what we could do if we had that same effort and that same energy.
So I see a question in here, and it says, I just moved here 2 years ago to the area, and will there be any commercial growth in Rocky Mount in the next few years? And I want to expand upon that because I know that all of y'all are here in Rocky Mount. I know that my Dante Pittman represents a part of Nash County in that sense, but thinking about all of your counties in eastern North Carolina as a whole, what does regional economic development look like, rural economic development look like for communities out here in the eastern part of the state that have been relatively forgotten about over the last 40 years when you think about how do we make sure that people don't just have to grow up here, but they can grow old here as well?
That's right. I'd say it's promising but challenging. There was a House Bill 1012, which was the second mini budget that we passed, made a $3 million investment in Halifax County for industrial site development. Governor Stein came down. We did a little mini press conference there. So that's something. But the real thing that I would point to just happened a day or so ago. There is an investment of hundreds of millions of dollars in Hertford County for an inland port project that should bring hundreds of jobs to not just Hertford County, but to the region. Hertford is right next door to Northampton, which is in House District 27. And when I talked to Mr. Lassiter, the chairman of the Hertford County Board of Commissioners, he told me, he said, whenever you have time, I would love to sit down with you to tell you how we went about doing this. He said, it took us 2 to 3 years. And I said, I'm going to do you one better. I'm going to ask my county commissioners in my district to come and sit with us as well. Because what we're really starting to see, not just with economic development, Madam Chair, but with a lot of different things, law enforcement. Rural North Carolina has some of the highest rates of violent crime in the state. And that's per the SBI's data. That's not me just giving you a talking point. That's real hard facts. What we're starting to see is that there needs to be an effort, and I know these gentlemen are with me on this, to regionalize a lot of the things that are happening in eastern North Carolina with infrastructure, with law enforcement, with economic development. So I think if we elect the right people and get them back into the seats that we currently hold and flip seats, you can have more of a regional conversation and collaboration between representatives at the congressional level as well as at the state and local levels for eastern North Carolina.
Thank you. Anybody else want to talk about it?
You know, being in Durham, being from here and now living in Durham is literally something I focus on a lot, the rural-urban divide. Our commercial growth is extremely strong in Durham, and I can tell you the difference. If you have a healthy economy, you have a healthy people. I ride my bike everywhere I go. And Durham, you can get a good job that pays 6 figures. You can close your eyes, spin around, and point, and there's a hospital within 3 minutes. But I remember my aunt passing away of complications, my Aunt Ada. But I remember one time in Hobgood, right on Bay Street where we grew up, she had a seizure, and the closest hospital was Tarboro. And so my cousin Star got her mom in the car and drove to meet the rescue squad. What kind of quality of life is that? And then I remember, you have the hospital in Scotland Neck that's closing, and then Chakawinity, Zach Hawkins, Representative Hawkins, he's from out there. We are losing hospitals left and right in the rural parts of the state, and they're still popping up everywhere in the urban areas. So I think that at the state level, we have to realize that if we truly want to talk about equity, that we have to share some of the wealth. And, if you look at what's happening at the Midwest right now, the Midwest is experiencing population decline. And that means they're experiencing quality of life decline. Whereas areas like mine, we are growing. It feels good for us. But there are some things that you want. It's like a bubble that's going to pop. The reason why Alamance County is going to be blue soon is because of Durham. Because we're running up to capacity, and folks can't really afford to stay there, so they just go right on the outskirts. So hopefully we turn Alamance County over, and then maybe it'll get up to Caswell and Randolph eventually. So we're trying to help out that way. But I do think the state needs to look at how do we share some of this investment across the state so that everything isn't just concentrated. And lastly, when I graduated from Southeast Halifax, we had almost 2,000 students in our school. Now I think it's a total of 300 students in the whole school. That's Southeast Halifax right here. So, I just wanted to give that comparison. It's really important that the state, try to spread this thing out a bit.
And let's talk about, too, what Eastern North Carolina lost, right? When we had an administration that came back in and defunded the priorities that were put in place by a previous admin. Rural broadband access, there was $42 billion of a federal piece of legislation that was passed to ensure that regardless of what zip code you had in North Carolina, you were going to be able to access the internet. Because as I know all the gentlemen up here can attest to their time in the legislature advocating for it, broadband, the internet, is the great equalizer for so many of our communities to learn whatever we would like to grow businesses, for farmers to be able, for small businesses to put their products online, for us to open up this area. And we have had a fighter in Don Davis who has been in Congress trying to make sure that they preserve what we can of that federal piece of legislation. But you just had an administration that came in and said, we're going to eradicate basically what was supposed to be, right, the next New Deal for North Carolina and for rural America overall is that investment back into our communities. And we want leaders that are going to value rural North Carolina and eastern North Carolina, because what we're seeing right now across the state, right, is a mega region being formed for economic development that goes from a Durham to Charlotte out to the western part of the state sort of corridor. You know where it doesn't come? East of I-95. And I don't know about y'all, but I don't want to be in a place where the only people east of I-95 that live out here own beach houses, to be honest with y'all. I think it needs to be that folks in any geographical area can stay where you grew up in if you want to. You deserve the opportunity, which is what I have heard from so many of the folks sitting up here today, but also from so many people as this party has traveled across the state to say we want the option. North Carolina should be able to give the opportunity. We shouldn't be ranked right 44th in teacher pay. We should be the best in teacher pay. We should not be 42nd for rural economic development right now. We should be the best in the country for it. And I know that everybody in this room knows that too, but to centralize that for y'all about what we have lost, right, from this administration too, because we did have a party and a federal administration that had a vision for what communities like this needed from our government right now, which is for it to actually work for them again, right? I want to say thank you, because I know Dante Pittman's hopefully going to take that one up, but I have heard it echoed from these four humans up here several times, so I want to reiterate it to them too, of just how good of advocates y'all have for Eastern North Carolina, and for thinking about how do we make sure that this is not a community where you have to land the plane slowly. This is a place where we can say, how do we grow and how do we expand and how do we do what, to the point that was made earlier about Midwestern states right now that we're not seeing, right, that vision come to fruition for people in places like Eastern North Carolina.
I just had to speak up on this, because I want you all to know, when I ran in the last cycle, 2024, one of the top messages against me were, if we elect Dante Pittman, a Democrat, all of the economic development in Wilson County will stop. They came out and said it. They said all of the dollars will stop. They said that the most recent Johnson & Johnson announcement that we had announced at that time, that'll go away. And they said we'll be in decline. Let me tell you something, folks. When we elect good people that are connected to the community, we can do economic development. And they're mad at me right now. They're mad at me right now because just recently it was announced in Wilson County that Johnson & Johnson will be expanding with 500 more jobs that are paying 6 figures in Eastern North Carolina. When we have a chance to get to the table and we have a chance to reflect our values, we can make economic development happen. But I'm so glad that the mayor talked about that connection to our urban areas, because frankly, everyone right here, the areas we represent, we are still benefiting from that proximity to the triangle. And what I see our job is doing is bringing jobs and opportunity here to then connect it to our brothers and sisters even further east. That's how we make sure opportunity exists all across North Carolina. But I just have got to say, for every Democrat in this room, don't you let a Republican tell you you can't bring jobs and opportunity. Yeah.
Thank you for... Let me tie this to something that the mayor said. Being that I'm here from Chicago, the state of Illinois, which the reason that I think this is important as a part of the national conversation, Chicago is the 3rd largest city in America. It hums. We're doing great. Don't believe the hype. The state of Illinois is doing great, but there are some disconnects with our rural brothers and sisters. So what the mayor just spoke of isn't just happening here in North Carolina. It is happening throughout the country. And in many cases, it's because, and it's going to lead to the question I'm going to ask, it's because we bought the hype that we can't provide opportunities outside of metropolitan areas, that people that live in rural communities are afflicted with a lot of things that are not true, whether it be education, whether it be social mores, all the rest. It's not true. And so one of the opportunities that we have in this room as part of a state conversation is that this is part of the national conversation. When I've talked to Anderson and had her on my show, when I've had pastor and representative on my show, I've asked each of them this question: how is the state of North Carolina going to be a wedge and a positive impact on the rest of the country? And it starts right here with these types of conversations. I strongly believe that in my heart, that it's this kind of energy coming from the mayor and coming from state representatives and the state chair that will make the changes here in the state that will impact the rest of the country. Because I see it from a different vantage point. The blessing of being from this big behemoth of Chicago is I get to see how that impact can filter down to suburban and rural communities. So, spot on. So that leads to the question that is part of what Republicans and the money behind Republicans on a national level is trying to do. And that's this: what is happening to discourage, or I'm going to put this in a positive, what is happening to encourage voters to show up? The question is, what is happening to discourage voter intimidation on Tuesday? So we'll start with Representative Pittman. This is a question for everybody.
Well, first of all, I will tell you what we're seeing in Wilson County. We are seeing folks that are affiliated with our brothers and sisters on the other side spout lies and get on social media to confuse people. And I know that, look, this is nothing new. I know there's nothing new under the sun. But what gives me great pause is in this age of technology and information getting out, how important it is for us to connect to our community through our churches, civic centers, and all of our groups to let folks know what the real information is. Because frankly, we are seeing misinformation and lies being spread, but not just at the local level. You're seeing it all the way to the White House. I mean, it really is mind-boggling when we are witnessing, we are living in a time when even folks that are truly trying to find accurate information can't hardly find it. And so I am concerned, number one, about what is going on at the federal level. I'm also concerned about the recent change of the State Board of Elections and being moved to the state auditor. Now, let me tell you all something. I think it's been 160 years of precedent that you have elections and the State Board of Elections that existed up under the governor. And in their infinite wisdom, the General Assembly decided it was now that power had to be moved to the state auditor. We have got to make sure we are organized at the local level. And again, when I say we, I mean all of us in North Carolina. Because if you don't believe that the other side is not trying to challenge a close election, I would have you look to Justice Allison Riggs. And the only reason that didn't work is because we were awake, people stepped up, and we had leaders that were willing to go to the mat.
Amen to that.
Yeah, you're right. I'd be even more explicit. Of all times in recent history, this is an opportunity to see a very stark difference. It is black and white. There is a very clear tactic of the intentions behind the Republican Party. You know, everybody says the words "for the people." The question is, what people? I mean, how is it that we in this room we are considered to have less value than Elon Musk? That is what is happening. Just simply look at who has access to the power. Now, there's pain going throughout our communities every single day. And there is a saying that the people closest to the pain should be closest to the power. But right now, the power is literally becoming more and more exclusive. So you don't even have to get technical in all of the bills that you all pass. You don't have to get technical in understanding all the policy. All you have to do is just walk outside and feel the air. And then check yourself. Ask yourself, is my child, my grandchild, my nephew, my niece, are they getting the same opportunity as the folks that their children up there in Washington? Who is getting access to the resources? We have to ask ourselves that. So for the first time in recent history, you do not have to be a policy nerd to understand who to vote for. You could just simply look on social media, walk outside and smell the air. It is that simple. That is what we're dealing with right now. So to your question, with the Republicans and how they are, I know you're about to say discouraging, but encouraging people to vote, you're going to hear people use big terms, oligarchy and all that stuff. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Ask yourself how much does cereal cost? There are going to be people that's going to use really big technical phrases on international policy. You know, in this, now I'm talking both sides. You know, watch who protests for what. Yep. You know, when you're gonna see the protests in the streets about, you know, other countries, and you're gonna see us going to war with other countries. But ask who stood up when LeDerrick just got shot down the street, and who did something about it. That is the black and white simplicity of whether you should get out and vote or not. If you don't vote, look in the mirror and rename yourself as first name I, last name am the problem.
Well, I'll say two things very quickly. I could not agree with them more. I feel like I'm dating myself. I feel like it was Popeye. But maybe not. But right before he popped the spinach,
Pastor, I'm older.
Enough is enough.
I'm older than you, so you're okay.
So I can't speak for all racial groups, but I can speak for this black person. We can rock with you if we not really certain that you're running game, because we don't really know. The dividing moment is when you start treating us like boo-boo the fool. I think we are in a boo-boo the fool moment. And I think people recognize it is a boo-boo the fool moment. And I think if nothing else causes us to roll up our sleeves and fight, it is when you insult me, treating me like a fool. And so I think anyone that's remotely thinking recognizes that. I think it is an encouragement, and I think it's going to be the difference maker. Someone mentioned local board of elections and the power being shifted. I'll make this comment in 60 seconds. I've been here 21 years in Rocky Mount. For at least 18 of those years, our church has always been a voting location. And then I got on ballot, and I ran against a gentleman named John Check. John Check was a senior administrator at North Carolina Wesleyan College, and they were a voting location. I was on ballot, and we were a voting location at Word Tabernacle Church. And St. Paul United Methodist Church, where John Check used to pastor, was a voting location. No issues, no problem. That went on for several cycles. Well, now, under the new administration, the gentleman I beat, John Check, now chairs the Nash County Board of Elections. One of his first tasks was to remove Word Tabernacle as a voting location for apparent conflict of interest. And so what I said to them is, because you have moved the voting location, we're gonna work doubly hard to make sure we turn out even more people in the Hunter Hill precinct than we've ever turned out before. And so I think this moment is an aha moment, a wake-up call to say, you know what? We are so bad and y'all are so anemic, we will beat you on your terms. And that's what we're gonna do.
In other words, we're going to win the away game.
Our pastor said the same thing that A&T students did when they took it off their campus too, which is that we'll walk 40 minutes to the polls if we've got to, but we're going to make sure that we show out to vote this year. We're going to do.
I don't think I need to add anything.
I was we're gonna do two more questions, because what I would like us to be able to do is wrap up, so y'all have got time to be able to hopefully take some photos with our candidates up here, post those on social media. You are a walking billboard. Everybody that you have endorsed, that you can get more folks out to vote with, and I hope that once you leave here, you'll post that photo and you'll say, hey, have you gotten out and registered to vote and tagged or not registered, but have you voted and tagged 5 different people who you know probably have not? Because I know sitting here right now, you can probably think of somebody from high school that you maybe ain't talked to in a while, but you could text them. You can say, hey, I was thinking about you. You voted yet? Have you done this yet? Go through your entire contact list if you can with us, because this is the time, this is the election cycle. We're going to ask people to make themselves uncomfortable, because we are currently really uncomfortable in this administration and in this moment. And I think that what we all have to do is give a little bit more, force ourselves to put ourselves out there a little bit more and make that case to voters. But I'm going to make sure, Richard, you got one more to give folks? I've got one last one that I'll wrap us up with.
Why don't you wrap us up, and then we'll back and forth.
I would just like to know, because I feel like y'all get, and to the point, they didn't know what questions they were being asked. This was all from the things. Oh, thank you. My goodness, I keep losing this paper up here. These are all the questions that you all had for them, so thank you for participating in this today, too. But I want to know, what's something that y'all didn't get asked that you would like for the audience to know, or what's something that you can tell us that maybe we didn't ask you today, or that, you know, they may not know about you being up here, and it can be something fun, it can be something serious, it can be whatever you'd want to leave folks with today about yourself or about your candidacy.
About my candidacy or my race? Either.
Take them both. Okay. You got time.
Okay. Well, Pastor Gailliard can expand on this a little bit, but the gentleman that I am opposed against in this primary served with Pastor Gailliard. But, and it kind of goes to this whole notion of you can't play us, you know, don't insult our intelligence. There have been 7 candidate forums in House District 27 since December. There was 1 in Northampton, 3 in Halifax, 3 in Warren. One of them was online, all the other ones were in person. You're talking about the Hallawasaponi Indian tribe having one, the Halifax County Junior County Commissioners having one, the Northampton Democratic Party, Warren County Democratic Party, Warren County NAACP, the Divine Nine organizations in our area. So you have all of these different groups having forums. And I went to every last one of them, all of them, because if someone comes to a forum, like you all being here today, we know that you are engaged. You're paying attention. You know, you want to know what's going on. You want to know where we stand as candidates. My opponent didn't show up to either one of them. None. Zilch. Nada. Okay? And I just can't for the life of me understand why someone would want to support someone or show up for someone who wasn't willing to show up for you. I can't understand why someone would want to be aligned with someone like that. If you don't respect me enough as a potential constituent and as a voter, as a citizen of this district, to show up and explain where you stand on the issues, to answer questions about your record, then you don't deserve my vote. If you're not confident enough in yourself to show up, I'm not confident enough to cast a vote for you. And then the people who do show up, you still might not want to vote for them. But I guarantee you, you will leave with a respect for them, that they showed up, they answered the questions, and they were there. And at the end of the day, these conversations around passing bills, around collaboration between municipal and county and state and federal, it's all about mutual respect. It's all about mutual respect. Working across the aisle, mutual respect. If I don't respect you enough as someone who I'm asking for your vote, if I don't respect you enough to show up, then I shouldn't expect you to vote for me.
So I will make this brief, Chair. To your point, Representative, I'm smiling because this first or second week as a freshman in General Assembly, I had a chance to have a conversation with your opponent who's attempting to challenge you. Didn't know him at all, he didn't know me, and he felt it wise to volunteer to tell me this true story, because y'all are not gonna believe it. He thought it was wise to tell me that he didn't think black people and white people should have babies. So for those of you who don't know, my mama white. There you go, there you go. So I said it, I'm not afraid, because that's what happened. What I wish, so if you're in Roanoke Rapids, you need to vote for this man. What I would hope that people would ask, Chair, is beside voting, what is most needed from me? What I will say to all of us is that you voting is not enough. It is not enough. I would encourage all of us to be volunteering on someone's campaign. I would encourage everyone in this room, everyone who is listening. I'm gonna say this again because we really are convinced this is the way we will win rural races. Everyone in this room needs to volunteer at one particular precinct. Make it your life's goal that in this particular precinct, the one you live in, the one you vote in, the one you have affinity toward, that I'm gonna do everything in my power to become a student of this precinct and to turn out the vote in every possible way. And this will not be a popular statement, and it will sound a little self-serving, but I will say it because it is truthful. It is also very important, particularly here in rural Eastern North Carolina, that we donate to people who are running races that can get the message out. And I know that's not popular, but I'm here to tell you a massive amount of money is leveraged against us. And we don't need to necessarily match dollar for dollar because we're better candidates and we have people more engaged. But there is an element of a message that still needs to get out. And so I would ask, what I would hope people would ask is, what can I do more than just vote? And so I would encourage you to volunteer on a campaign, give to a campaign, adopt a precinct, and do everything you possibly can to get all those votes out on your precinct.
Well, we've talked about it here today with the importance of this moment. But you're hearing from folks that are currently serving in office or have served and are currently running for office. I think it's important to remember from folks who have already served and done so much for us. How many people remember former Congressman G.K. Butterfield? I was talking to G.K. the other day, and there was a moment in which this whole thing was crystallized, because anybody that knows him knows that the man is a historian. Right. And if something has happened in eastern North Carolina, he can quote it to you. Right. And before we ended the conversation, he said, "Dante, this is an important time." And he paused, and I said, "Yes, sir, I got it." "Yes, sir." He said, "No, Dante, this is an important time. For folks like me that are younger and newer to this game, it is so important to listen to your elders when they speak. The folks that have worked, that have fought for this, and that have gotten us this far." And so when my forever congressman tells me it's an important time, I know that I've got to get to work and work as hard as I can to make sure my family, my friends, and my neighbors are standing right there with me. And I would challenge all of you to do the same thing.
I want to stand up for this one. I'm going to be much more explicit. We have to find a way to put up some money to support people that are running for office, all right? Because what is happening, and I'm going to use Rodney, I'm going to pick on you for a moment, because I called him. I was like, "Man, what are we going to do about these signs?" I was invited home to speak at an MLK program on the northern side of the county, so it was over by Northwest. By Rillian Springs Elementary. And as I'm driving from Durham, I get off 85 and I get to Norlina, and I go through Norlina and I go through Warrenton. And I'm just gonna be biased here. When Democrats run for office, we have the standard sign, but when Republicans run, they have these big, giant billboard signs all over the place. His opponent has those big signs over there. And then there's a message online that says, if you're a Republican who like to, I asked, if you are a Republican who would like to switch sides and vote for me, that question alone, and going to give instructions on how to do it, tells me where your allegiance is going to be. And I'm not saying don't cross the aisle. I'm just simply saying stand up for the values and the people in which you represent. But running for office in Durham and places like Durham is very different than running for office here. Here, people like to donate to the love offering at your church. No offense to any pastors, but watch the money that's coming in. You know, it's like, you got to report when you give to my campaign directly, but I ain't got to really report when I give a love offering to get the pastor to say, "I believe the Lord sent this brother right here." Like, just have discernment. And don't let people pull the wool over your head. Look at the candidate for who they are. And if you trust your pastor, that's fine. But if your pastor trying to give you the okie doke on somebody, you need to look a little further into it. All right? So that's one thing. To your question, though, this is probably non-politics related, but I am a little offended. I'm a little offended that people think that folks like us that come from Eastern North Carolina aren't able to produce good things. The man you're looking at right now, I'm extremely proud to be from Eastern North Carolina. When I got sworn in as mayor, I said, I'm just a humble kid from Eastern North Carolina, Halifax County, and I started running down where I'm from, and I said that to the city of Durham. I've led that city to be the third largest city in North Carolina now. But let me tell you one thing. There's a brother named Andrew Vinson from Enfield, North Carolina, who has slept in the guest bedrooms of ambassadors across this world, from Enfield, led the organization Step Africa. There is a brother who's from Halifax County who's the mayor of Baltimore, Maryland. There's a young man from Hobgood, North Carolina, who stood on the world stage at the DNC and said, hailing from the great state of North Carolina, I am Mayor Leo Williams from Durham, North Carolina. I'm from Eastern North Carolina. So we are able to produce amazing talents across this country. Don't let anybody make you feel like we are less than. So when you're showing up to vote, know that you are voting with pride. Know that you are supporting amazing talent. Know that you are supporting the best candidates. Because we have to be representative. And we cannot just let somebody pull the wool over our head and treat us like we are less than. Treat us like we are dumb. And try to make our ignorance their currency. This is our time. Go vote. Stand up and be proud of who we are.
Thank you, Mayor Leo. That is extraordinarily powerful because so much of the time, and thanks to all of our guests, we are taken for granted. I can tell you, big city of Chicago, I walk around the city of Chicago and I get taken for granted because of the costume that I wear. Trust me when I tell you that. So when we see that, we have this power and this energy, not just here with our candidates and our officials, but throughout the entire room. That ought to tell you something. On a Sunday afternoon, we got together and said, we're going to fight this thing. And we're going to do it in a way that leads to the final question that I'm going to ask Anderson. Comes from you guys, but I decided to put a little bit of a spin on it. How do you perform acts of good trouble? So Anderson, I will ask you this question as it relates to everybody in the room.
I was going to say, can we give a round of applause to our panelists, y'all? And if I got anybody listening to this on the radio right now, if you are in Warren, Northampton, or Halifax counties, I need you to get out and vote on Tuesday for Rodney Pierce, everybody. Or if you know family or friends or neighbors, or if you don't and you're willing to call some folks, I know that Megan Wagner, who is Rodney's campaign manager in the back, would be happy to talk to you all about how they can provide you a list so that you are also involved and engaged with one of the competitive primaries that we have up here right now, but also making sure that you're staying focused with us throughout November to help get elected. Our Pastor James Gailliard, everybody. And keep re-elected Representative Dante Pittman, everybody. And I ain't gonna lie to you, I ain't worried about Durham sitting down there on the end. You know,
Thank God I'm not on the ballot.
I was gonna say.
Thank God.
No offense, they got it a little bit easier than us. And thank you, Richard. Really, when I asked him, I said, hey, I'd love to come on your show monthly. I'd love to be able to get on there and help talk about what Democrats are doing in North Carolina as consistently as I possibly can. And I was even more excited when he told me, hey, we broadcast into Warren County. I said, Warren County, North Carolina? I said, oh, absolutely, yes, I want to be in Warren County every month trying to talk about what Democrats are doing. And so a very big thank you again to Donald in the back, who is helping make sure that we are broadcasting.
Don Brumfield.
Donald said he has got a good gospel station, too, so if y'all are ever looking for something to listen to, I hope you'll crank up the tunes in your car for us. But just to end on that question of how can you get involved with acts of good trouble, and I could not echo more what folks up here have already said, but I do want to take you all through the plan for North Carolina, because I think you all have heard so much up here today about how we need a legislature that works for the people of North Carolina, how we need the Leandro plan to actually be passed, which is a 30-year court fight to fully fund public schools in North Carolina. Republicans have held up this fight in court for, again, 30 years. And I tell y'all that because that court fight, right, came out of 5 rural black counties in North Carolina that said we believe that we deserve better and that we're going to sue the state legislature to make sure that we get better. And it doesn't matter if we're fighting that fight for 20 years or 30 years, because a lot of people right now in North Carolina are saying, It's been a long time since Leandro. You know, it's been a long time since that court fight got fought in the first place. And why don't we just, can we stop talking about it? You know, we'd love to stop talking about Leandro. And the reason why we don't stop talking about Leandro is because it should not matter if it takes 30 years or 60 years or 90 years to get justice for people in this state. We should chase justice for people in this state. And that's exactly what you have, are people that are chasing justice for Eastern North Carolina up here representing you. And how you get in good trouble with them is that you step up yourself to run for office at the local level. You decide, I'm not going to wait for somebody else to make that case for me to fight for my communities. I'm going to be the one that does it. You get involved and you volunteer again with one of these campaigns. You march in that protest. You sign up to host the protest. You decide, hey, I'm going to be the person that goes out in front of the grocery store every Saturday and registers voters. I'm going to be the person in my group chat that reminds everybody to get out and vote. I'm going to be the person that is constantly reminding folks about politics, because right now everybody wants to disengage from politics, because I know that folks have put it into everybody's mind that we can't do something about it. I promise y'all we can. And the place that North Carolina holds right now is that we are going to make sure, just to tell you all what the plan for our state party has been, we have 3 terms, right, on our state Supreme Court. When I got in this job in 2023, we had a 5-2 minority on our state Supreme Court. Our state Supreme Court has come back in and racially profiled and gerrymandered the state of North Carolina. It has allowed for us to have a 10-4 split right now in Congress, instead of an even 7 Democrats and 7 Republicans that would have represented us if we had kept a Democratic state Supreme Court. We lost that court in 2022. And so we did step number 1 of taking back North Carolina in 2024 by electing Justice Allison Riggs, thanks to you all in this room. Step number 2 is re-electing Justice Anita Earls on our ballot this year. Anita Earls, the only black woman on the bench right now, the former executive director of the Southern Coalition for Social Justice, the woman that people in Eastern North Carolina know for coming out to their door and being the person that said, you're knocking on their door. I'm trying to do that with this little wooden chair I got right here. Knocking on their door saying, hey, my name's Anita. Your rights are being disenfranchised, and I'm here to help you get them back. She's been a 30-year civil rights attorney in North Carolina. And when I tell y'all that every bit of the fight that we are feeling right now on the ground, she is doing for us in Raleigh each and every day, she is. So we are going to make sure that we keep her on that bench this year, y'all. But we also are going to win 3 Court of Appeal seats for the first time since 2018 in North Carolina. And I tell y'all that because, again, 2018, the Court of Appeals is a statewide bench in North Carolina. There are 15 people that sit on that bench right now. Only 3 of them are Democrats. Yeah, that should have been a big moan, right? But so step 1, taking you back. Step 1, Allison Riggs. Step 2, Anita Earls. Step 3, we are going to take 3 Republican seats on the North Carolina State Supreme Court in 2028. We are going to reverse partisan and racial gerrymandering. We are going to reverse voter ID laws in North Carolina that have disproportionately targeted black and brown and poor and elderly voters in our state. And we are going to make sure that we fully fund public schools with the Leandro plan. And then, in 2030, we're going to come and we're going to take a state house chamber for the first time and be the only state house chamber in the South that has the chance to flip before the 2030 cycle. And in 2032, we are going to make sure that we take the North Carolina State Senate too. We are going to become a blue trifecta, everybody. And I know y'all are looking at it and y'all are going, Anderson, that's a long game plan. I'm worried about 26, girl. I'm worried about whether or not we're going to be in this election cycle. Yes, we are. Because what you all know sitting in this room, what Eastern North Carolina knows better than anybody else in this state, what black and brown voters know in North Carolina better than anybody else, is that what's happening federally has been happening here for quite some time. With disenfranchising and targeting who can vote and who cannot vote, the ability for authoritarian regimes to come in and say, well, we'd like to defund the Department of Education, we'd like to cut social programs, we'd like to eradicate social safety nets. That's happening right now because we have a federal government that is allowed for it to. And North Carolina can change that. But I need each and every one of you to walk out of here today with the resolve that you know when you take care of your precinct, when you take care of your precinct, you take care of your county takes care of this state, and this state, North Carolina, is going to take care of this nation, y'all. I promise you that. So hang on and let's go get elected a U.S. Senator in Roy Cooper, everybody. Let's make sure that we elect Justice Anita Earls. Let's make sure that we elect a James Gailliard and elect a Dante Pittman and elect a Rodney Pierce up here. Now, who's ready to knock doors after this, everybody? Who's ready to get out there with us? Yeah, come on, hands up. And if they're not up, that's okay, because I'm going to ask you to. All of these gentlemen up here are going to ask you to. And we're going to make sure that you feel fired up and ready to get out there and talk to your neighbors this year. Thank you for coming out. Can we give a round of applause to our fantastic host, everybody? Word Tabernacle has been so good to us today. Thank you to Richard Chew. Thank you to everybody here today, folks. And thank you to all of those folks out there listening to us. Again, if you have any issues finding your candidates this year, go to ncdp.org/candidates. Thank you all, everybody.
All right.
All the questions that were given to you, did you?
No, we couldn't make it through all of them.
That was great.